A very good afternoon to everybody. Welcome back to Civics second year class. So we were discussing your second chapter, that is fundamental rights and directive principles. Yesterday I have explained you fundamental rights incorporated in the Indian Constitution. So today we will discuss directive principles of state policy. So before going in detail, let me just give you the meaning of the word directive principles of state policy. So here state means we will consider it as government. What does the government do? It makes policy for the welfare of the people. So this directive principles are, they are the instructions given to the government. They are the guidelines, you can say instructions. Okay. They are the instructions given to the government. So directions also you can say. So directives. Directives are nothing but the guidelines. Okay. Or you can say instructions. Or you can also say directions. Directions. So what is directive principles? These are nothing but the instructions or directions or guidelines given to the government. Here the word state is nothing but government for making policies. Why does the government make policies? It makes policies for the welfare of the people. It makes policies for the welfare of the people. What are directive principles? Directive principles are nothing but they are the instructions. They are the instructions given to the government by the Constitution. They are the instructions given to the government. Here it is mentioned. Directive principles are the instructions given by the Constitution to the government. Who is giving instruction? Constitution. To whom? To government. Okay. So it is clear here that it is from the Constitution. So where are these directive principles mentioned in the Constitution? The directive principles are discussed in part 4 after your fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are in part 3, whereas directive principles are discussed in part 4, article 36 to 51. If you remember, yesterday we have discussed fundamental rights are in part 3, articles 12 to 35. So after 35, 36, part 4 of Indian Constitution, article 36 to 51 deals with the directive principles of state policy. Okay. I hope you are clear with the meaning of this word directive principles. It is nothing but the instructions or guidelines given by the Constitution or directions given by the Constitution for making policies. Okay. So these directive principles, they are of 3 types. One is socialist. Okay, which aims at welfare of the society. Socialist principles, from word socialist, we can say it is something related to society. Okay, then Gandhian principles. These are based on the ideas of Gandhi. That's why we are calling it as Gandhian principles, ideas of Gandhi. And liberal principles. Liberal means these are the instructions given by the learned or intellectuals. Okay, how to make policies. So directive principles, they are of 3 types: socialist, Gandhian, and liberal. Okay, I hope I'm clear till here. So let us discuss the socialist principles. Okay. So here the articles are not in order. Okay, it's difficult to remember the article numbers, but still, if you can learn the article numbers, well and good. Otherwise, directly you can write what are socialist principles. Okay, so let us see what are socialist principles. They are discussed in Article 38, 39, 41, 42, 43, 46, and 47. Okay, they are discussed in Article 38, 39, 41, 42, 43, and 46, 47. So what are socialist principles? These principles aim at establishing welfare state. Okay, the aim of this principle is welfare of the society. Okay, so let us discuss Article 38. What does Article 38 says? Article 38, it promotes the welfare of the people. It says that government should make the policies for the welfare of the people. Article 38, it promotes the welfare of the people. When government is making policy, it should make the policies for the welfare, for the benefit of the people. The next is Article 39. Article 39 states that government should provide adequate means of livelihood. Okay, it should provide means of livelihood. It should provide employment opportunities to the people. Okay, and equal pay for equal work for both men and women. If men and women, they are doing the same job, they should be paid equally. So all the government employees, be it men or women, if they are on a particular post, if they are performing a particular duty, then they are paid equally. Okay, for that we have categories, cadres, or you can say grades of officers. Grade 1, 2, 3, 4 grades. Okay, so based on their grades, be it a men or women, they are paid equally. So what is Article 39? It says that adequate means of livelihood should be provided, and both men and women, they should be paid equally if they are doing the equal work. The next, Article 41, it says that government should provide assistance. Assistance means help to unemployed, sick, and old, like they give pension. Okay, so they should provide assistance to unemployed. They should help them financially to meet their day-to-day needs. Okay, so government should provide assistance to unemployed, sick, the people who are sick, who cannot work, and to the old. After a certain age, we are not in a position to work. So government should provide assistance, should provide some help to such people. And they should also ensure right to work. Right to work is for everybody. It is an economic right. Okay, then Article 42. Article 42 says that government should secure just and human conditions of work. Okay, that means, what do you mean by just? Just means, what do you mean by word just here? Suitable human conditions of work. For example, if I have to work from 9 to 5, okay, and I'm not getting any leisure, and there is no washroom, or there is no water, there is no proper ventilation, how long I can work in that particular office or room? I should have basic facilities. Proper ventilation should be there, electricity, lights and fans should be there, washroom should be there, drinking water should be there. Okay, so government should make sure that just and human conditions are provided for work. And maternity relief. Okay, maternity relief should be given to the women. That is another instruction given by the Constitution. Okay. Maternity relief is nothing but after delivering the baby, the woman should get some relief, some leave. So when they are at home on leave, then what about their salary? They should be paid at least half salary. Okay. The next is Article 43. Article 43 says that government should ensure a decent standard of living for all. That means every individual should be able to satisfy their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. And they should have enjoyment of leisure and social and cultural opportunities. So all the government employees, they are paid equally so that they have a decent or same standard of living, so that they won't get involved in any corrupt practices. They don't get involved in corruption. If they are paid, a decent salary is paid, they can have a good standard of living. They can, fulfill all their basic needs and wants. So decent standard of living should be ensured, and they should also have some leisure for enjoyment. They should get some leisure time for themselves. Okay. And they should have cultural and social opportunities. They should get the opportunity to exhibit their culture. So cultural programs should be organized. The next is Article 46. It promotes educational interest of weaker sections. So who are the weaker sections? The backward sections, scheduled tribes, scheduled caste. Okay. They are the backward classes. So government should promote education. Okay, promote education for them. How can they encourage the weaker sections to get educated? By giving scholarships. Okay, by giving scholarships. They should encourage, economic and educational interest of the weaker sections. And they should provide or increase the level of nutrition and improve the public health. So they should take steps to improve the public health. That is Article 47. Okay, so socialist principle, you can easily understand that they are based, they aim, not based, they aim for the welfare of the people. Okay, socialist means something related to society. Government should take steps to, for the welfare of the people. Government should work to promote the welfare of the people. Okay, so let us move to the next. Next is your Gandhian principles. I told you in the beginning itself, Gandhian principles are based on the idea of Gandhi. Gandhian principles are based on the idea of Gandhi. Again, these articles are not in order. So what are the articles under Gandhian principles? Article 40, 43, 46, 47, 48, 48A. A means Article 48 was amended, and Article 49. Okay, Article 49. So these are the articles under Gandhian principles. So what are those? Let us see. Article 40. Article 40, it says that village panchayat should be organized. And every village should have village panchayat so that they can solve their problems locally. Okay. Then they should promote cottage industries, small scale industries should be encouraged so that more and more people will get employed. Okay, so that they can, fulfill their basic needs. Then again, Article 46, you have discussed this in socialist principle also. Article 46, it promotes educational and economic interest of the weaker sections. So government should, make policies to develop economic and educational interest of the weaker sections, backward classes, because they are backward. They cannot afford the education for the children. So how the education can be encouraged? By providing free education, free books, distributing free books, then giving scholarships. In that way, they can encourage the weaker section to get their children educated. Okay. Then Article 47, it prohibits intoxicating. Intoxicating means which are harmful to your health. Okay. Which are poisonous. Poisonous also you can say. So Article 47, it prohibits intoxicating drinks and drugs. So all the drinks and drugs which are harmful to us should be banned or prohibited. Okay, intoxicating drinks and drugs should be prohibited. That is Article 47. Then Article 48, it says that the agriculture and animal husbandry. Okay. So in agricultural field and in rearing of animals, what is animal husbandry? It is rearing of animals. We should adapt scientific methods. We should adapt scientific methods in agriculture and in animal husbandry so that we can get more and more yield. Okay, output. Okay. Then Article 48A. I told you, whenever you see this word, this letter capital A with articles, it means amendment. It means amendment. So Article 48 was amended and this was added to it. What is that? Government should take steps to preserve environment, protect forest and wildlife. Otherwise, what happens? Otherwise, if forest and wildlife is not protected, if environment is not protected, then that is the people who will suffer and wild animals will become extinct. So, government should take steps to protect forest and wildlife and they should preserve the environment. That is Article 48A. And then next is Article 49. What is Article 49? Article 49, it instructs the government to protect monuments. Okay, what are monuments? They are the historical buildings. Okay, and the places of national importance. Okay, it is the responsibility of the government to protect monuments which are of national importance. Which are of national importance. I hope I am clear with Article 49, up till Article 49, that is Socialist and Gandhian principles. We have discussed socialist principles, which aims at welfare of the people, welfare of the society. And Gandhian principles, they are based on the ideas of Gandhi. So let us move to the third type of principles, that is liberal principles. Liberal principles. Now, liberal principles, they aim at realizing the liberal ideas, the ideas of the learned people, the intellectuals. Okay. So what is Article 44? So what are the articles under liberal principles? We have Article 44, 45, 50 and 51. Article 44, 45, 50 and 51. They deal with the liberal principles. What are liberal principles? They are the ideals of, intellectuals, learned people. So what is that? The first is Article 44. Article 44 instructs for securing uniform civil code throughout India. That means the same laws should be applicable throughout the country. Then Article 45, it instructs the government to provide free and compulsory education for all the children below the age of 14 years. If you remember, when we discussed, fundamental rights, there also I have told you that it is the right of every child to get educated up to the age of 14 years. Then when we discussed fundamental duties, there also I told you that parents should provide education to the children up to the age of 14 years. And here, the Constitution instructs the government to provide free and compulsory education up to the age of 14 years to all the children. There shall not be any discrimination. Article 50, it says that the government should take steps to separate judiciary from the executive. The judiciary should be independent. It should not be under the control of executive. And Article 51, it promotes international peace, respect for international laws, and to resolve disputes through discussions. If there are any disputes, if there are any conflicts, disputes, or disagreements that can be resolved, that can be solved through discussions, we need not indulge in war. Okay, we need not indulge in war. India is a peace-loving country. So if you have any dispute or conflict with any other country, then that can be resolved through discussions. So that is the Article 51. So with this, we complete our directive principles. I hope I'm clear with the directive principles. Now, let us now discuss the next question. Okay, this was asked in March paper. Differences between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policies. Fundamental rights and directive principles of state policies. Let us see the differences. So what are fundamental rights? Fundamental rights are the privileges to the citizens. You can start like this also. First point you can write, fundamental rights are privileges to the citizens, whereas directive principles are the instructions to the government. Here state means government. Who is giving this instruction? Constitution. Okay. So what are fundamental rights? They are the privileges. They are the benefits given to the citizens. And directive principles are instructions given to the state, that is government, by the Constitution. So both fundamental rights and directive principles, they are part of our Constitution. So let us discuss fundamental rights first. Now, fundamental rights are negative in nature. Why they are negative? They are the privileges, right? They are the privileges given to the citizens. But if you see this from government's point of view, the fundamental rights are restricting the activities of the state. It is restricting the activities of the government. So they are negative in nature. They are negative in nature. Government cannot make any law against the Constitution, right? So the activities of the government are restricted. Here the activities of the government are restricted. That is why we are saying that they are negative in nature. Fundamental rights are negative in nature because it restricts the activities of the state. Whereas directive principles are positive in nature. Here the government has given, the government has got more powers for making policies and programs for the welfare of the people. So here they are positive because it is extending the activities of the state. Okay, it is extending the activities of the state. I hope I am clear with the first point. Fundamental rights are negative in nature. Directive principles are positive in nature. If you can't remember complete sentence, if you are writing at least the first part, fundamental rights are negative in nature, directive principles of state policy are positive in nature. That is also enough. Now, fundamental rights are justiciable. Okay, justiciable. What do you mean by this? Suppose if you're not allowed to use your rights, you can go to court of law and court will protect your rights by issuing writs, orders. Okay, court will protect your rights by issuing writs. So you can go to court of law to protect your rights. That means fundamental rights are justiciable. Now, directive principles are non-justiciable. Directive principles are non-justiciable. Why? Why you can't go to court of law? Because it is directive principles are extending the activities of the state. It is making programs for the welfare of the people. If government have funds, then they will implement the policies and programs. If they don't have funds, they will not implement the policies and programs. So you cannot go to court of law to force the government to implement the policies made by them. You cannot force the government to implement the policies made by them, because they will implement the policies only on the availability of the funds. They'll make the policies for the welfare of the people, but many a times it happens that they don't implement those policies because they lack funds. So court cannot force the government to implement any policy. So they are non-justiciable. Okay, I hope I'm clear with the second point. So this also, if you can't remember everything, just write like this. Fundamental rights are justiciable. Directive principles are non-justiciable. Okay. Then, any law against the fundamental rights is invalid. If any law is made, okay, which is against your fundamental rights, then those laws can be declared as invalid. Those laws can be declared as invalid. Whereas in case of, directive principles, no law can be declared as invalid. After, formulating the policies, then only they will pass the laws, right? So no law can be declared as invalid because they are violating directive principles. No, you cannot say that there is the law which is violating the directive principles. Okay, you cannot declare any law invalid on the grounds that it is violating directive principles. I hope I'm clear with this 3 points. Let us move to few more points. Next. Now, fundamental rights are individual oriented. We say fundamental rights, they are concerned with the individuals. Okay, each and every individual, they enjoy fundamental rights. So that's why we say that fundamental rights are concerned about individuals. Okay, and the fundamental rights, it protects the life and liberty of the people. Okay, fundamental rights are protecting the rights and liberties of the people. Whereas directive principles, their aim is socio-economic development of the society. Their aim is welfare of the society. Directive principles, they aim at the welfare of the society. What kind of welfare? Social and economic welfare. Now, fundamental rights are more important than directive principles. If government has to choose between fundamental rights and directive principles, fundamental rights of the citizens are given more importance, whereas directive principles of state policy are given preference after fundamental rights. Okay, if citizens don't have rights, then what is the use of policies made by the government? That is why fundamental rights, they precede or they are more important than the directive principles. And directive principles, they are given preference only after fundamental rights. Next, fundamental rights are given in part 3 of the Constitution. They are already in the Constitution and there is no need to make separate laws to implement them. For implementing fundamental rights, you need not make any law. Government need not make any law for implementing the fundamental rights. Whereas directive principles are discussed in part 4. They are the guidelines or instructions to the government. So, for implementing directive principles, separate laws are required. Okay. For implementing fundamental rights, no separate law is required. They are in the Constitution and it is given to all the citizens. Whereas directive principles, they are the instructions to the government. For implementing the principles, separate law has to be passed or separate law has to be made. Okay. Now, fundamental rights are orders to the government, whereas directive principles are advices to the government. It is advising the government for making policies and programs, whereas fundamental rights, they are orders to the government to protect the interests of the people. Okay, to protect the life and liberty of the people. I hope I'm clear till here. Now, coming to the next point, whoever be in the government, fundamental rights shall be implemented. It doesn't matter who is ruling. The fundamental rights are to be implemented. If any law is against the fundamental rights, then it can be declared as invalid. Whereas directive principles are implemented according to the availability of financial resources. Government, it has made a policy, but it does not have financial resource to implement that policy. Okay, so directive principles are implemented only when there is availability of funds with the government. Okay, fundamental rights, here I have mentioned as FR, fundamental rights, they provide political democracy, whereas the aim, the goal of a directive principle is socio-economic. So, here through fundamental rights, we can achieve political democracy. Through directive principles, we can achieve socio-economic development of the country. Fundamental rights are the benefits given to the individuals in participating democratic activities. So I told you, fundamental rights are the benefits to the people. Okay, they participate in the democratic activities through fundamental rights. Whereas directive principles are the activities taken up by the government for the welfare of the society. Directive principles, these are the activities taken up by the government. These are the steps taken by the government for the welfare of the society. So this was your differences between fundamental rights and directive principles. It's a very simple question. If you are writing 10 points, if you are able to learn 10 points and if you are writing 10 points, you can score 10 marks for this answer. But you should be very careful. You should write differences corresponding to each other. Okay. For example, I'll show you. For example, the first point you are writing, fundamental rights are negative in nature. Then in directive principles also, you should mention the nature of the directive principles, that it is positive. Okay. Instead of that, if you are writing first point as fundamental rights are negative in nature, and in directive principles, you are writing that directive principles are non-justiciable, then it will not give you the marks. You won't get the marks. So differences means you should write corresponding differences. Otherwise, you won't get marks, full marks. So always, whenever you are writing differences, make sure that you are writing corresponding differences, and it should always be in a tabular form. Okay, like this in table. Tabular form means it should be in a table. Many students, they know what they do. They'll write fundamental rights. Then below that, they'll write directive principles. That is not the way of writing differences. When you say differences, differences means you should show them side by side in a table. Then only it will be easy for the examiner to understand. So with this, we have completed all the 3 LAQs of this chapter. That is fundamental rights, directive principles, and differences between fundamental rights and directive principles. One question is for sure out of this 3. Okay. Now coming to very short answers. Yesterday we have discussed. I told you if you are thorough with fundamental rights, you can answer 4 very short answers. Okay, right to equality, right to freedom, right to religion. What are these? These are the fundamental rights. Then, if you are learning directive principles, then you can answer 2 more very short answers. That is Gandhian principles and socialist principles. You will get 1 question out of this 6 questions. So, and this fundamental duties is the most repeated question. With this, we have completed your 2nd chapter. See, if you are thorough with, at least 4 or 5 chapters in 2nd year, you can easily get through your exam. Like I told you, you have chapter, repeatedly I say this, chapter 1, 2, 3. Okay, then 7 and 9. From these 5 chapters, you will get 5 LAQs. You have to answer 3. Okay. Then you will get 4 SAQs. You don't have SAQs in 2nd chapter, but you have SAQs in chapter 1, 3, 7, 9. So from chapter 9, you will get 2 SAQs. Okay. Chapter 9, you will get 2 SAQs. So you will be able to answer 2, 3, 4, 5 SAQs. 30 marks for LAQs, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 5s are 25 marks for SAQs. Then coming to VSAQs, you will get 1 from 2nd chapter, 2 from 1st chapter, 2 from 3rd chapter, 2 from 7th chapter, and 3 from 9th chapter. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions. 9 twos are 18. Okay, so around 73 marks you can write. You can attempt for 73 marks if you are, thorough with at least this 5 chapters. Then chapter 5, it has got 2. You will get 2 5 marks questions from chapter 5. So whenever you are learning, learn according to the weightages of the chapter, so that you can, attempt more questions and you can get through your exams. For supplementary, it is, passing your paper is important. And students who are, appearing for the improvement, they can learn all the chapters. Then right to constitutional remedies. This is again you have discussed in your fundamental rights. So out of the 7 questions, you will get 1 question, and out of 7, you are covering 6 questions in LAQs. You need not learn those answers again. Okay. So coming to your next chapter, that is, I'm directly going to your last chapter, that is India and the world. Your last chapter, chapter 11, India and the world. Again, in this, the weightage for this chapter is 9 marks. Weightage for this chapter is 9 marks. You don't have any LAQ here. You have SAQs and VSAQs in this chapter. So the most important SAQ here is features of India's foreign policy. Okay, this is most repeated question. Out of this 5, 1 is compulsory and very short answers. This Panchshil is again repeated question. Okay, you have to learn all these questions to answer 1 SAQ and 2 VSAQs. So quickly we will move to the questions. The features of India's foreign policy. See, India started playing active role in international politics immediately after our independence. Okay, started playing active role in international politics since 1947. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of our country, okay, he made the first foreign policy for our country. So what are the basic features still we are following? So what are the basic features? First is international peace. I told you India is a peace-loving country. The foreign policy of India, it aims at promoting peace, friendship and cooperation with all the countries of the world. If you see, when we discussed, directive principles under Article 51, liberal intellectual principles, I told you that state should work for promoting international peace and security. The basic feature of India's foreign policy is international peace. Okay. The next is Panchshil. See, if you are learning this Panchshil here, then you can answer it for 2 marks. So what is Panchshil? Panchshil means 5 principles. Okay, Panch means 5, Shil means principles. So what the meaning of this word Panchshil is 5 principles. So what are the 5 principles? The first is mutual respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty of the state. Okay, so we should respect the sovereignty, integrity and territory of other states. Okay, when we want others to respect us, we should respect them also. So it is mutual respect. Mutual respect. If you are not, trying to invade any country, or we are not trying to have a control over the other countries, then they will also not try to invade us. So there should be mutual respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty of the state. Territorial integrity and sovereignty of the state. So here, the first principle under Panchshil is mutual respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty of the state. Next is non-aggression. We should not be aggressive. Okay, we should try to resolve our conflicts through discussions. So non-aggression is also one of the features of India's foreign policy. That is principle of Panchshil. The next is non-interference in the internal affairs of other states. So we should not interfere in the internal matters of other states. Equality and mutual benefit. We should not consider any state, superior or inferior to us. We should treat that all the states are equal to us, and we should work for mutual benefits. We should work for mutual benefits. And we should live peacefully. There is the last feature is peaceful coexistence. Peaceful coexistence is the another feature of Panchshil, or one of the principles of 5 principles. So what are the 5 principles here? Mutual respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty, non-aggression, non-interference in the internal matters of the other states, equality and mutual benefit, peaceful coexistence. Okay, these are the 5 principles under Panchshil. So this is one of the important feature of the India's foreign policy, and many other states have adapted this feature. Many states have adapted this features. And it is not these 5 principles an individual can inculcate or follow in his own life also. Okay, it is benefit for the person also. For example, if you respect others, others will respect us. We can resolve our, disagreements or conflicts through discussions. We need not become aggressive. Okay, we should not interfere in the matters of others. Okay, we should treat everybody equal to us. Okay, and we should live peacefully. So these are the 5 principles under Panchshil. Next feature of, see, if you say in question, they'll ask you any 2 features or any 4 features. So you always remember that you should write 5 features. If they're asking 2 also, you should write 5. Because if you're writing 2 features, it will not fetch you, 5 marks. So you should write 5 features. Next is non-alignment. So what do you mean by alignment? Align means going to one side. Okay, going on one side. So India, it is against alignment. It said that it will not support any power block. Okay, it will not support any power block. It is against military alliances. Okay, it is against military alliances. India said that we will not support any power block. We won't support. We are not in a favor of any power block. That is non-alignment. We don't commit to any power block. We won't commit to any power block. The next is faith in United Nations. Okay, United Nations, it is a peacekeeping organization. It was formed after the failure of League of Nations. League of Nations was formed after First World War, but it could not prevent Second World War. So, after the failure of League of Nations, United Nations organization was formed as a peacekeeping organization. So India, it has, it cooperates with the United Nations in its peacekeeping activities because India itself is a peace-loving country. The next is disarmament. Okay, India's foreign policy, it always committed to disarmament. That means it never favored the use of nuclear energy. It said that we should not use nuclear energy in a destructive way. Instead, we should use the nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. Okay, it opposed the use of nuclear weapons irrationally. We said that we should use the nuclear energy for the benefit, for peaceful purposes, and we should not use the nuclear weapons irrationally. Without thinking, we should not use nuclear weapons. So India is against disarmament. Disarmament means it is against using nuclear weapons. Non-alignment, it means it is not supporting any power block. It is not supporting any power block. So this was your features of India's foreign policy. The most repeated and important question. Okay, it is the most repeated and important question. I request all of you to learn this answer thoroughly so that you can, easily attempt this question. So next is general functions of General Assembly. Now, this is the next part of this chapter is related to United Nations organization. Just now we have discussed India, it is supporting United Nations organization in peacekeeping activities. So I told you what is United Nations Organization. United Nations Organization, it was formed after the failure of League of Nations. Okay. For making peace in the world. So it is a peacekeeping organization. So it is called as government of the governments, you can say, because it is governing all the countries. That is why I call it as government of the government. So there are 193. So when I am saying it is government of the government, this United Nations Organization has also got some organs like United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Security Council, International Court of Justice, Trusteeship Council, Social and Economic Council. Okay, so like this, it has got 6 organs. So General Assembly, it is the legislative organ of the United Nations Organization. It is the legislature of UNO. General Assembly, it is the legislature of UNO. There are 193 member nations in UN General Assembly. Okay, in United Nations Organization General Assembly, there are 193 member countries. 193 countries are the members of General Assembly. So what are its functions? It discusses all the matters regarding the world peace and security. So what does the assembly, that is legislature, does? It will discuss the various issues. So here, United Nations General Assembly, it will discuss the matters relating to peace and security. Then it also direct and supervise the matters concerning international socio-economic cooperation, how the nations can cooperate with each other for the upliftment. Then General Assembly, it also controls the finances of the UN. We have discussed, right? Legislature, it controls the finances of the government. It approves the budget of the government. Similarly, United Nations Organizations, General Assembly will control the finances of United Nations Organization. It approves the budget of UNO. The budget of UNO has to be approved by the General Assembly. It is the legislative body or legislative organ of the UNO. What is General Assembly? I'll write it here. General Assembly is the legislature of UNO. Okay. Then it makes necessary amendments to the Charter of UNO. Now, what is this charter? See, every country will have its own constitution. So, the constitution of UNO is called as charter. Charter is nothing but the constitution of United Nations Organization. Okay, so any amendment to the charter of the UNO that can be done by the legislature. In general, also we know that legislature has the power to amend the constitution. So here, the constitution of UNO is charter. This charter, it is the constitution of UNO. So it can be amended only by the General Assembly. Then it takes steps to admit new members or expel the old members. So it is the General Assembly which will admit the new members and it will remove or expel the old members. So it adopts all the international conventions. Conventions means agreements. Now, what are its electoral powers? The General Assembly, it elects 10 non-permanent members of Security Council, 54 members of Economic and Social Council, 15 judges of International Court of Justice, and the Secretary General of UNO. Okay. The Secretary General of UNO is also elected by the General Assembly. Okay. It takes steps to admit new member states or to suspend or expel the existing members. So that is your General Assembly. A simple question. See how the legislature functions. The General Assembly of UNO, it functions in the same way. So with this, I conclude today's session. We will discuss remaining answers in the next class. Thank you very much.